Good morning. This is Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can get more information, also a list of previous shows at my website, which is blainesworld.net. Ordinarily, I tell you you could listen to this show, but this show, as you'll see in just a second, is a show you're going to actually want to watch because it's kind of a special show. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Ronald Rand, an actor, author, playwright, a bon vivant. Just you name it, that's Ronald Rand. And Ronald, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this.
Great to see you. Thank you, Blaine, so much.
Okay, and that is Ronald. And again, this show, as you'll see in just a second, is one you can listen to, but you get a special kick out of watching it. Ronald Rand is a good friend, but he's also an acclaimed actor, author, director, and playwright. He's celebrated over 25 years performing his solo play, Let There Be Art, with standing ovations in 5 continents and 28 countries. And I have to ask you, Ronald, when I ever read that, so you wrote this when you were 7 or 8? When you wrote this?
Probably 6.5.
I mean, the
Yes.
youngest to write a play has been from all over the world at the age of 7. That's pretty cool. Um,
Thank you.
we've talked, we talked about you and I, but for the recap, for folks who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, when did you start coming up with this idea of writing a play?
Well, I had been doing hundreds of television shows and movies in New York City as an actor, but I also wrote the first play about the group theater, which was America's greatest ensemble acting company in the 1930s. And I brought to life Harold Clurman in it. And at one point in time, somebody said, "You ought to, think about doing a show as Harold because you're Harold." And I said, "Well, that's a big, something to bite on." And so because Harold was the dynamo and he spoke the group theater into existence, and he was the most passionate human being you could ever meet. And I studied with him, so I was very fortunate. Just a few months before he passed, back in 1979. So I was very lucky. And at that time, of course, I was studying with Stella Adler, who he had been married to, and they were together for almost 20 years. And I told Stella Adler I was thinking of creating maybe a show as Harold. But as I may have mentioned previously, she said, "Oh, no, darling, no one can play Harold." I mean, he was this huge, enormous figure. And so I gave it some more thought. And then I finally said, "Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the show. And I will do it." And she finally said, "If you have to, go ahead." And so she sort of blessed me.
Now, I think
And I did. Yeah.
I've seen pictures with Clurman, but for the benefit of folks who haven't, do you look like him at all, or did you look like him at all?
I did look a lot like him, and he looked a lot like me when he was younger, because I bring him to life when he's almost 80 years old, and I'm not 80 years old, of course. And it all began probably 26, 7 years ago. And then I took it on the road I've been on the road now for 25 years. As you mentioned, to 28 countries and across America to 21 states. And I'm a Fulbright specialist, visiting guest professor. So the State Department has sent me to several countries around the world to perform and teach. So I've been very blessed, and I'm going to be doing a performance here in Asheville. My second one, I had a sold out performance back in May at the Black Mountain Center of the Arts. This performance is going to be on November 16th at 12:45. It's a matinee. It's over at 2 Science of Mind Way here in Asheville. And it's also, you're going to have lunch. So it's $25 a person with this incredibly delicious lunch they're preparing. And it'll be $15 for young people. And the show will start at 12:45. And then at 2 o'clock, I'll have a little Q&A. I always shake hands with everybody in the audience. And at 2 o'clock, I'm going to have a book event for this book that we're talking about, The Martian May and 30 Poems with 29 paintings by Ronald Rand.
Well, let's start from the top, back to the performance, which I certainly
Sure.
encourage people to see, and quite a treat if they do. How do they get information on that performance? On a website or anywhere?
You can go to the Center for Spiritual Living Asheville website, and you look under upcoming events, and just click on that link and you can get tickets right there. It's very simple. And of course, I'm going to be getting it out to the newspapers and everything. But the extraordinary thing about experiencing Harold Clurman in person, because I actually go through an almost 3 hour transformation to bring him to life. So he actually enters me and comes alive, and you get to meet Harold Clurman, and he takes you on this incredible journey to Paris, to Hollywood, to all over the world. And you also get to meet, through me, Stella Adler, as well as Stanislavski, Lee Strasberg, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Katharine Hepburn, a lot of extraordinary people.
And what's cool about it is that you and I know most of those names or lived through them. But even if you didn't, you'll have fun at the show. You don't have to.
Oh, yes.
No,
He's a
no.
very, very hysterically funny guy. And there's a lot of fun experiences in the show. Yes.
The over the show, you all these years you've done it. Does it evolve at all, or has it changed?
Well, what's been amazing is because I take it to such exotic places like Kathmandu or Zimbabwe or India 5 times. I never know exactly what the theater will be like. Sometimes I can be in a cave, like I was in Tbilisi, Georgia, or I'll be under the stars, which has happened in India a couple of times, or I was in a tribal hut, a huge one that had 200 people in it, only Zimbabweans, when I was in Harare. So yes, the show does change because Harold Clurman also gets this enormous response from the audience, and he feeds on it, and they feed on him, and it becomes almost like this love fest. It's amazing.
When you talk about the show, though, which also is amazing to me, is the fact that you've done this all over the world. So obviously, in North Carolina, you'll be speaking in English. When you're going
Uh-huh.
elsewhere, do you speak all these languages, or how do you do that?
No, I always, of course, always do a post-performance talk in the language of the country that I'm performing in, as a way of greeting them and also talking to them in a few sentences of their country, like I did talk in Zulu or Armenian or in Belarusian or in Spanish. But no, the show is in English. I only speak English, even though as a director, I've directed plays all over the world in different languages. But sometimes I've had to do subtitles naturally in Spanish, in Belarusian, when I was in Malaysia, in Malaysian. Different countries require that. In Greece, it was up next to me in Greece, in Greek. So yes, it happens.
Well, that's probably the best way to do it, I guess, when they have subtitles, as opposed to having somebody translate it, at the same time.
Well, that actually happened twice in Colombia, where
Oh,
they said they did not have a wall close enough to do the show. So they said to me, that's the only way we can do it is to actually put the translator on the stage. And I said, during the performance? And they said, yes. And I said, okay, I'll have to talk to Harold Clurman in the dressing room. And so I told him there's going to be a student in your apartment because he leaves what I call the creation room and he goes what we call on stage, but he actually goes into his apartment to live. And so I told him, there's going to be a student who's going to be speaking Spanish, and you're going to have 3 sentences to let them translate it. And it was a fascinating experience both times because I didn't know what he would do. And he didn't anything like that. He kept looking for his matches because he sometimes smokes a cigar. He starts working on his speech. He was just, it was amazing. So that's happened twice. Yeah.
yeah, but I can understand it because I love watching a show when they have an interpreter for the deaf, so that by
Yes.
the way, have you ever done that? Have you ever done a show?
I've had 2 instances where we have had signed people on the stage to the side because I had some people come from a place that they were could not speak, and so they needed the sign language, and it was. But there was no stopping. Usually Harold barrels through, but sometimes I have to say to him, slow down, because he's very, very passionate.
Well, just like you get so enthusiastic about it. It's just fun to
Yeah.
watch. And so
Thank you.
before we get into the latest thing you're working on, you told me too that you just got back, I guess, from someplace. You were at another for a change, another arts festival. Where was that at?
I was just in Armenia at the very famous High Fest. International Performing Arts Festival in Yerevan, and I was invited there to represent the United States. And they invited me to do my performance, which was very well received. And they speak a lot of English in Armenia, so that was wonderful. And so I did not have to have subtitles. And but I had performers who were also in the festival come to see the show from Iran, from Algeria, from other countries. From Poland, and they spoke English, and so they certainly got everything he said. And before that, I was in Greece, and I've been in a lot of amazing countries. I just was in North Macedonia. I was the first American to win the Jury Best Actor Award at the International Monodrama Festival in Bitola. And then I just did my workshop in Morocco and here in Asheville at the Leaf Festival on Friday.
You have a favorite place you've ever spoken at?
I have my every favorite place is every favorite place I go to. It's
Okay.
everyone is so unique. I fall in love with everyone there and I have such a good time. So I'm incredibly blessed.
I have to ask you too, for something else you do, and talking about the perfect man for the job itself, but then you're also, what is that, a cultural ambassador for the United States. What's that all about?
Well, about maybe 15, 20 years ago, I went to the Kenya International Theater Festival, and the artistic director and founder of the festival, I told him the countries I've been to, and he said, "You're like this cultural ambassador from America, aren't you?" or something. And I said, I suppose I am. And then when I went to another country, they said, you're representing America. You represent the culture and you're this ambassador." And I was going, oh, so the name of the U.S. cultural ambassador has sort of been bestowed on me. I didn't really know that it would turn out that way, but now being in 28 countries, and now I'm been invited to Africa in the spring, and probably back to Europe in the late spring. It seems to be a great, great blessing. But I'm also very blessed because I've just been invited to also teach my Art of Transformation workshop at Clemson University because I've been invited by the South Carolina Theater Association convention to come down 2 days before my performance in November to teach the students there. So
Very
it's
exciting.
wonderful to be invited like that.
And how about this country? So I know New York, I know North Carolina. Have you been all
Mhm.
throughout this country presenting?
I've been in 21 states so
Okay.
far, and I'm planning to certainly. I'm in touch with other states. I'm working on that right now, and it's very important. I've been to probably over 150 universities and colleges and acting academies between America and the world, and so it's always incredibly fascinating to travel to Washington State or to, Alabama or up to Virginia. I just love it. It's so, so important.
And one of the things I love about you, Ronald Rand, is the fact that you're a man who does many different things, So I'll be eating lunch with you or be talking to you, and you say, I got to tell you about something new. And so I learned only not too long ago that you're also an artist, and we'll talk about that. You're a painter and you're also a
Yeah.
poet. And so that kind of
Mm.
segues into your new book. And you told me off there, it's the fourth book. Is that correct? You've
My
written?
fourth book, I wrote a book about how to create your own solo show called Solo Transformation on Stage. I wrote Acting Teachers of America, and I also wrote Create, which is a compilation of 130 interviews with some of the most creative people on the planet, from Carol Burnett to Chaka Khan to Christopher Plummer. Amazing, amazing artists and also with over 100 artworks in it. But now since I've been painting my whole life, and my mother was a watercolor painter, extraordinary artist. I've been very blessed to have an amazing uh, mother as a painter. And she encouraged me when I was about 1.5 and put a brush in my hand. And all of a sudden I'm painting on the walls, which she wasn't excited about at the beginning, but then got used to the idea. And so I studied at the Art Student League, which is one of the most prestigious art schools in America. And I've had my work exhibited in New York and all around the world as well. And it actually was on exhibit down in an exhibition at the Hendersonville County Public Library twice already. I put together these 29 paintings and 31 poems, and I invited my publisher who did my last book to take a look. And he said at Sunbury Press, you didn't know this, but I used to have an art gallery and I love your painting. I love your poetry. I want to publish it. And that's what happened.
And so that book, it's perfect segue into talking about the book, the March in May. And what I'd like to do, Ronald, if we can work
Sure.
out the technical difficulties on this, is I'd like to talk about it as we show it, okay? And so
Sure.
keeping our fingers crossed, and if we get fouled up, we'll come back to this. But I'm going to do a little screen sharing, and I think I'll be able to show your the book and your poems, and you're going to talk about each one as we show it. Is that okay?
Well, what I'll do is when you show some of the paintings, I will read the poem that
That'd be
goes with the
beautiful.
painting.
Okay, so
Okay.
keep your fingers crossed, and you and I have been
Okay.
practicing this.
Fingers crossed.
Let's see if we can do this, and I think we can. Share, share, share. And I'm going to put us on pause for 1 second as I find the pictures again. But we'll be right back. So don't anybody leave. Let me see if I can do this. And we want to find the pictures. Hey, Ronald, we're back again. And we were paused there for a second, but I think we can now get the pictures of your work, which are really worth seeing. And I think if I can go, we can. And you now are seeing, Ronald, this is the cover of your book. Is that correct?
That's right. That's The Martian May and 30 poems with 29 paintings by the author. And that painting on the cover is the first poem in the book, The Martian May.
And when you were writing these poems, did you have the pictures in mind, or you took the pictures after the poems? How'd that come about?
Actually, I had written these poems all over the world. Some are in the book. One I wrote in Kathmandu, and in Fez in Morocco, in Mostar, in Bosnia, and Herzegovina. Another one in Greece and Olympia. So I had written these poems, and then some of the paintings that I had done where I had been. I began to think, well, maybe they go together actually, and they might work. And so that's how I began to put the book together, the manuscript. And then when I got together with my editor, would you believe it? She actually said, I think you might want to consider coming up with a different painting for this poem because you probably could express more. And I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And so actually, there's one or two paintings in this book that I hadn't created before, and they're brand new.
And these paintings, the one we're looking at, are they all from North Carolina, or are they all around the world?
No, this one, The Martian May, actually is from the marsh along the coast of Georgia. But some of the actual paintings I did, the one about meeting a deer is here in North Carolina, of course. And some of the other ones, like the one about Ivy Green and Helen Keller, of course, I did down there where she was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama. But some of the others I painted here. And certainly a fair amount of the poems in the book I wrote here, especially like the Ode to Thomas Wolfe.
Okay, so Ronald, if I can, what I'm going to do is now kind of go to some of the paintings in the book.
Sure.
And if you kind of would just
Yes.
tell them what they are, and then also I understand there are some poems you want to share with them. So if you
Definitely.
would, we'll take a look
Yeah.
at this next
Well,
one.
this painting coming up is right at the beginning of the book, and it sort of sets the tone to which says, "See the light." Was a very bright morning when I was out west in the state of Washington. So that's how it was captured.
Okay, and is there a poem with that one or no?
No, the next one has a poem,
Great. So, oh,
which is The Martian
which
May,
I
and
love.
I'll read the poem now.
Please.
The Martian May, past the Spanish hanging moss. The languid air tingles with a not so readily apparent excitement from the nearby crashing waves of the Atlantic. Above the dry, seemingly endless marsh, playing hide and seek between the cedar and the pine, my view lingers and falls on half-hidden crustaceans seeking refuge from the foreboding heat settling on every branch, twig, and bark. Tracing along the cerulean blue overhead, the totem-like splintered trees arch upwards, questioning their place, ever present, but barely from the pounding jet stream that comes and shapes all things, leaving its mark for all time everywhere. Are those gaping, screeching seagulls passing overhead on their way to visit a junk from China? Or perhaps a rambunctious hulk adrift at sea? I do not know, nor should it matter. Harbingers, they're drawn to the sea, cautiously curious, carefully selecting one direction to go in. Wherever they travel may lead them. Heading back, I turn one last time, gazing at the winding, crestfallen, blue-hazed, yellow-green creases of the marsh, constantly changing its color according to temperature, the sun's approach and descent, and my eyes dancing across its surface, searching for a lost bend, a solitary indention never seen before that lies in wait and may never be seen again.
Very nice. Ronald, if folks come to the launch of the book, will you be reading some of these poems there as well?
I may very well read one or two poems as well.
Okay, please,
Absolutely.
please do. I think people are in for a treat if they do. Aside from meeting you, I think it'd be worthwhile to just see some of these poems, which are just beautiful. Next one
Thank you.
is here.
This one is called Shall We Call You Tree? I actually painted this and wrote the poem here in Asheville. It's the huge, gorgeous tree over at Beaver Lake in the bird sanctuary, which is unmistakable and amazing, huge tree. This poem is called Shall We Call You Tree? If not for your roots, which wander everywhere, stretching to infinity, we would digest you like we do everything else and soon forget you. Firmly rooted to this revolving sphere, outstretch your tentacle-like limbs upon the earth, your blossoming, eye-opening specters of green, fluttering and unfolding in every direction, beneath an all-encompassing soaring canopy of blue, or so we believe it to be blue. In fact, it's not even a distant cousin, but our eyes have no choice to see what they see. Without them, we would live in a darkened existence, unaware of the rich panorama being played out before us. All around me, the crisp wind tickles ago still leaves, which now dance with glee, shaking upon their benefactor's limbs, stretching out from a wizened monolithic trunk as thick as the columns Parthenon. You are home for so many, carrying ages within your fibers, your membrane, your furrows, your roots, announcing to the world tree, standard bearer of time, past and present. Gliding swiftly by, an uncomplacent hawk swoops towards the nearby, and I hitch a ride, climb to soar into the sky beneath the placid, harmonica-shaped clouds streaming by, ever present, the moon and the stars watch over our charades. Puppets and puppet masters alike, we shake sticks at the gods, playing games to hide our true intentions. In our haste, our eventual demise, our mumblings, our rumblings cannot hold a candle to you, tree, center of the universe, as we revolve from light into darkness and then back again into light, as if that would allow us to see more clearly. If only we could trust our senses, listen and see the truth, and calm our soul to find a word.
Now, the title of this poem was what?
It's called Shall We Call You Tree?
And the question I want to ask you, in terms of writing a poem, do you ever get a title before you write the poem, or is it always the poem and then the title?
Usually the poem is never there yet. Sometimes it takes me days or weeks to find a title, and sometimes it changes. But after I've written a poem, sometimes the poem reveals itself, the title. And then when I was working with the editor on the book, the editor actually suggested sometimes on a poem or two, you might want to think about another title because it sounds like another poem's title. So it can change.
And this one, it's just like perfect. The title just ties right into the painting.
Thank you.
So the next one is?
So this one is Ivy Green. This is a painting I did of the actual house down there in Tuscumbia, Alabama. I was there for quite a long time, off and on. And even though you see the stars sort of beneath the house, illuminating it, this is a mixed media painting because the stars are actually almost a photograph, and I turned them upside down to actually be the ground to create this effect. And I wrote this poem called Ivy Green.
Go for it.
Beneath the bedurable stars, nestled between the honeysuckle and the magnolia, surrounded by dogwoods, roses, and ivy, a simple clapboard house stands in a small town in the South, deep, deep in the South, Alabama, to be exact. And you might ask what town it is, where it resides, and I'd be happy to oblige. The name of the town was actually after a chief, Tuscumbia. That's how they named their town. And there came a day when a captain and his wife crossed the threshold and history was made. Keller was his name, and they had a daughter. Helen was hers. In fact, they had several children. But to this one solitary soul, the good Lord said, you will see, you will hear, you will speak, but only for a time. And then darkness came. She went this way, she went that way, she went every way she could, searching, groping, grasping. But that world would not let her go. Finally, the Kellers brought a young woman named Annie who understood. Teacher, they said, teacher, for if there's one thing that'll save her, it's knowing she's not alone. So Annie did. But the key to her soul was still locked away, unknown inside. One day, at a black well, at a pump, Annie tapped into Helen's eyes, into her soul, into her wisdom's well, and used Adam's ale across her palm. And lo and behold, meaning came. Water, water, water. Yes, a miracle worker changed Helen's life that day. And it all began beneath that bedurable stars nestled between the honeysuckle and the magnolia, surrounded by dogwood, trees, and ivy's bouquet, in a small town in the South, deep, deep in the South.
Just going to pause for a second here, Ronald. I just want to check something.
Sure.
And the good news is I just want to make sure we were recording, and we were. And so before we go back to the next painting, a
Yeah.
question, how long does it take you to write a poem?
Sometimes it comes pretty quickly. The words just spill out. Sometimes I'll start a poem and I'll get to maybe halfway or three-fourths of the way through, and I got to take a break because it may not be exactly right. But usually 90 to 95% of the time, the words come. Sometimes when I go back in to read it through, I have to change a word or here or there, but usually they come because they need to come.
And by the same token, the paintings, how long do they typically take you?
Oh, I have a very unique way of painting. Sometimes I will paint a painting and then I know I have to paint over it because it's not finished. And then I'll paint another painting over it. And I'm not happy with that painting. And I may paint a third painting over it. And that may be the painting that becomes the painting. Sometimes I will paint a painting in one sitting and capture it, but I may have to come back to it during the day or at night or something. So it all depends. I always listen. The paint tells me what it wants to mix itself with. I have a unique style of painting now where I don't just paint. The paint and the water and the painting itself has to talk to me. So that's how it comes.
And one more question in terms of your creativity, um, in terms of thinking of poems to write or things to paint, do they come together or are they each separate?
No, I have to be, you might say, inspired. Something hits me. I'll be sitting out on the porch here, and 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 a deer will appear, and that's why I'm going to read this next poem. A deer came to see me today, because all of a sudden I was saying to myself, it would be so wonderful if a deer came down the hill and visited me. And would you believe it? A deer came down the hill and visited me. And so that's how the poem was born. And after the deer left, I went, I think I have to write about this.
Great. And Ronald, because of time constraints, I'd like you to read this next one and then we'll kind of wrap up with one after that. But I'd
Sure.
like to hear this one about the deer that just appeared. So let me get back to
Yeah.
screen sharing. And I think share. And this one we just looked at, here's the one about the deer. Go for it.
Oh no, that's the we've got to skip that one. That's actually there it is. That's the
Gotcha.
deer.
Okay.
A deer came to see me today. It came down the hill and seeing me, it stopped and slowly made its way to where I sat. It stamped its paw as if to say hello, friend or foe. I wished it well and sent my love its way. It turned its head as if to say, yes, I see you, and we are in this moment one, here on this mountain, this morning, on this planet, revolving around the sun. A deer came to see me, and time slipped by as we gazed into each other's eyes. I see you, yes, and we exist in this moment as one. Ah, the breath of recognition, of peace and love. A deer came to see me this morning. It seemed as if we had found one another, and everything before had brought us to this moment. Then, turning it away, it suddenly stopped, but glancing back, its eyes seemed to say, don't you know who I am? And then it was gone. That's what life is. One moment leading to the next, slipping through our fingers like strands of gossamer as we find a way forward. For in that moment, we saw one another, and that's how to live.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Just look at it, it's just incredible. I can see the deer. And Ronald, as indicated, because of time constraints, I want to ask you to just take a look at one more, if you will, and this one especially.
Sure.
If you talk a little bit
Okay.
about this one, it just was so cool. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is actually a copy of I painted this from a photograph because this is the angel that Thomas Wolfe was inspired by out in California that he came upon to write. And so I painted it, and then I wrote this poem after visiting his beautiful home here in the museum in Asheville, and I heartily recommend everyone to see it. I actually watched that movie with Jude Law and Nicole Kidman there as well. So this poem is called An Ode to Thomas Wolfe. He chose to look homeward, an angel, his inspiration, Asheville, his checkerboard. Where there was a rhyme, there was a reason. The mind's a funny thing. Once it grabs you, it's like a steel trap, never lets you go. A perpetual rain of words poured forth like molasses, unstoppable. In the end, the pen was unforgiving. No rest for the weary until that final sleep. And when it comes, what he had done left its mark on the sands of time. A trumpet plays now somewhere, probably up in heaven. For though his time was measured, his soul was not.
Thomas Wolfe, they say at the museum, definitely worth getting to. And Ronald, what I'm going to do is, let me get back to you and I, if I can find this somehow.
Sure.
Okay, give me a second. Stop sharing. And now you're with Ronald Rand again. Ronald, I have to say, first of all, thank you for those poems. And I'd like to recap a little bit. First of all, if folks want to get in touch with Ronald Rand or find out what you're up to, definitely worth following. What's the best way to keep track of you?
The best way is to go to my website, which is www.letitbeart.com, the name of my show, Let It Be Art. And they can also pick up a copy at Amazon of The Martian May and 30 Poems with 29 Paintings by Ronald Rand. The foreword was written by the publisher, Lawrence Knorr, who was so excited about the book. He said, I want to write it. And he's also designed the cover and the back of the book, which was really a great honor. And I hope to have a few testimonial words from the poet laureate of North Carolina, Jackie Shelton Green, about the book very soon. So I'm really deeply honored to be on your show, Blaine. It's always a pleasure to be back on this incredible Blaine's World. So thank you so much for having me here.
And Ronald, as always, thank you for being part of my life and part of Blaine's World. I also like to thank my producer, Cappy DeSetti, and hopefully we'll get together sometime in the near future, if not before then, Ronald. You be well.
You too. Much love.
Likewise.